So thank you for coming to this policy workshop. We were just speaking about the question of employment and social rights of migrants and minorities. Do you think that the international human rights framework can provide a solid basis for arguing in favor of those rights?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. The international human rights framework is there. It is the fundamental legitimacy test for any government policy anywhere. And in that international human rights framework, we have the two basic instruments, mandatory instruments, are the two covenants, Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. That second covenant provides the framework for all economic and social rights. So social protection is provided, labor rights are provided, access to healthcare, to a decent standard of living, to education, etc. All this is there, and almost all countries of the world have ratified that, and this is their framework. And their constitutional and the regional human rights protection have to conform to that as well. So we have a framework there that says basically that everyone has the rights to all the social rights. If we talk about social rights in particular, everyone. It doesn't exclude migrants. It doesn't exclude irregular migrants. Everyone means everyone. There's no exclusion. Now, there has to be a distinction between a fundamental right to health and the entitlement to government services. Some services will be based on the fundamental rights. For example, I think we can all agree that access to emergency care should be provided to anyone, and that we're not going to ask for immigration papers before admitting someone who's bleeding or unconscious. We're going to treat the person. That's also in the oath that doctors do, that doctors pass when they start in their profession. They care for patients, period. They're not interested in the immigration status. But there are other elements of the healthcare system where we can discuss issues, where we may discuss whether that's based on a fundamental right or whether it is simply something that, you know, is nice but is not based on a fundamental right. And for that distinctions to be made, I think we need to do that in individual cases. And that's why I think that national human rights institutions, courts, tribunals, if you have a social commission, social care commission in any country, they should do the determination and come up with distinctions that can be justified based on the human rights framework as not being discrimination. An unjustified distinction is a discrimination, and the right to equality, which benefits migrants, including irregular migrants, needs to be respected for everyone, which means that distinctions must be justified, otherwise they're discrimination. So if we deny irregular migrants access to certain healthcare services, education services, it has to be justified. I think there's a debate at present for access to school for the sons and daughters of irregular migrants. If you take international human rights law, including the Convention on the Rights of the Child and the covenants, it seems quite clear that mandatory education is for everyone and that there should be no exception. In international human rights law, there's a pretty large consensus that kids should go to school, whatever. Kids are not responsible for their parents' immigration status. Kids are kids. They need to go to school, period. And that's school systems and ministries of education should simply open up the schools, not ask for immigration papers. And I think that's, you can do that for each and every government service. Try to make that determination. And if you deny, one has to be able to go to court or a national human rights institution or a tribunal in order to have determined whether the determination made by the government is legitimate or not.
Well, indeed, thank you very much. I think the international human rights framework provides for a very powerful set of tools, at least for guaranteeing fundamental rights to everyone, and then as a step to looking at what exactly are the entitlements of different types of people. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.